What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. Today, guys, we are going to be continuing our discussion into Jump Festa 2023. In the previous video, I went over the first two live streams that Konami had for the Jump Festa event, and in this video, we're going to be going over the third live stream that they had, which was more focused on the Rush Duel games. So, with that being said, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first thing that we're going to be discussing from this Rush Duel news is the reintroduction of the dual disc Yugioh version. Now, this was something we already knew about a while back, but now it is currently on sale right now, and they just wanted to remind people about the dual disc. So if you are interested in these kind of like products where it's an actual physical dual disc, then this might be something that piques your interest. It's literally the same one as the 7's dual disc, just with the UTS logo, which is obviously what Yugioh's dual disc does have. So if this is something that piques your interest, then you can actually go and order it now if you so please. And the cool thing about it as well is that you also get 5 secret rare promo cards that are included with it, which once again, these were already revealed, so I'm not going to go in depth into these cards. You probably have seen them on Yugioh organization before, so I'm just not going to waste my time going over them. But with that said, the next thing that we're going to be discussing is something that's very interesting, and it is this sort of scratch Loto thing that you can get from buying the Yugioh's dual disc as well, which is like this little scratch ticket thing that has Dark Magician itself in a secret rare special blue version foiling, which, not gonna lie, it does look pretty sick. And this isn't the first time we've seen this rarity before. In fact, we got the announcement with the Gaia the Fierce Knight in an earlier stream, so this is not a new rarity that we've never seen before, but it's still pretty cool that they're going to be doing this for Dark Magician and giving it a cool special blue version secret rarity. But not only that, there is also a version of this as well that is red, that contains a Red Eyes Black Dragon in this blue version of a secret rare. So there is 2 separate cards that you can get. It doesn't specifically say what it's going to be in, but if I had to guess, it's probably something you also get with the Yugioh's dual disc. Now, I will just say this, I might be completely wrong. This might be something that you get that's completely different from the dual disc, but I don't know, it just makes the most sense that maybe that's what this is for. Maybe it's for the video game. I honestly have no idea. Yugioh organization doesn't specifically say it is, unless it's in the text that obviously I can't read Japanese, so I can't really say too much on it. But yeah, I do think it's pretty cool that they have like these special blue rare versions that you can get with these little scratch lotto cards. I don't know, I think it's a cool way to release a card in this special rarity. So with that said, the next thing we're actually going to be going over is a pretty beefy one, as we're going to be going over some new cards that were set to release in Double Star of the Assault, which will be released on January 1st, 2023, and we got some pretty cool support here. And the first thing that we're going to be going over is the Ace Monster for Neanderstars deck, which is Cat Claw Girl. Now, before I go into this card's effect, I do want to quickly mention that when it comes to Rush Duels, I'm not an expert of it. Typically, when I actually do Rush Duel videos, I take my knowledge of the main game and try to incorporate it into Rush Duels. So, if I am wrong on whether or not a card is actually good or not, I do want to apologize on it. I don't play Rush Duels that often. In fact, I haven't played Rush Duels since Dawn of the Battle Royale was released, and I only played that for a couple of hours, so take my thoughts on whether or not it's good or not with a grain of salt. I'm gonna do my best to say whether or not it's a good card or not, but I might not be 100% accurate because, again, Rush Duels is not in my expertise, so I just wanted to mention that before we go into these cards more specifically. But Cat Claw Girl is a level 7 Dark Warrior effect monster with 2200 attack and 200 defense, and its requirement is you can activate this by placing 1 card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. And in its effect, choose 1 beast monster with 200 defense in your graveyard and special summon it to your field face up. If you special summon a normal monster, you can also choose 1 fusion monster from your graveyard and directly set it to your spell and trap card zone. So this is actually a pretty cool card. Being able to just Monster Reborn back any of your beast monsters from your graveyard is always nice. I know Monster Reborn is a very popular card in Rush Duels, so to have a monster that basically has an effect like Monster Reborn is actually pretty cool in my opinion. And the nice thing about it too is that if it's a normal monster, and also it specifically has to have 200 defense, which I believe with this archetype specifically, a lot of the monsters, if not all the monsters, monsters has 200 defense, so that should not be hard at all. But if you special summon a normal monster, you also get to choose a fusion from your graveyard and directly set it to your spell and trap card zone, basically giving you fusion access. So yeah, in my opinion, I actually think this is actually a really solid card. Not only can you get back any of your beast monsters with 200 defense from your graveyard, which is basically this entire archetype, but not only that, if you choose a normal monster, you get access to your fusion plays without having to draw it. So in my opinion, it looks like a pretty solid card. But with that said, let's go into the next card, which is actually a new Deluge fusion monster, and that is the Dragius Star, a level 9 light high dragon fusion effect monster with 3300 attack and 2500 defense, with the materials being to the Dragius. Its requirement is that there are 2 or more normal monsters in your graveyard with the same name. You can activate this by sending 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. Its choice effect, its first one being, choose 2 attack position monsters you control with the same name during this turn. They can attack twice per turn. And then the other choice effect is, choose 2 normal monsters with the same name in your graveyard and special summon them to your field face up. So this card actually seems really good in my opinion. The first effect, that just give 2 monsters the ability to attack twice in 1 turn, is just very solid. You know, you could deal a lot of damage with this. Your opponent can't stop their monsters from attacking, and could potentially lead to some OTKing if you can get enough attack points on the field to be able to go over your opponent's life points, and also depending on what the game situation is. So that's pretty cool. But even the second effect is pretty solid as well, as you are just able to summon 2 normal monsters with the same name in your graveyard and summon them face up in attack position. And guess what? The Dragius monsters that you have to use to summon this monster, they're normal monsters, so you can just special summon those back, and now you have a 3300 attack point monster and 2 2500 attack point monsters. I mean, I don't know, this card just seems really good to me. I think the only downside I will say is that you're going to need a lot of time in order to get this, because you need 2 level 8 monsters in order to summon it, and with fusion only allowing you the fusion summon with monsters on the field, it is going to be a little difficult to get into this monster, but it is super worth going into this monster, in my opinion. So overall, the Dragius Star, very impressed with it. But with that said, this is going to lead us into our next monster, which I'm not going to go over the effect of, because it's a card that we have seen in the game of Rush Duel since the very beginning, and that's Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius. But this time, in this set, it is getting an Overrush rare in it, which I gotta talk about Overrush rares real quickly, because I've never done a video on it when they first got announced. If it wasn't for prismatic rares being a thing, this personally might be my favorite rarity of all time. Just the idea of taking the monster from the card artwork and making it pop out of the card, I don't know, it just looks absolutely incredible. I absolutely love the Overrush rarity, and I really do hope they kind of bring that to the main game. Probably won't happen in the TCG specifically, but even seeing like an OCG version of this where they have the monsters popping out of the artwork would just be so cool, and I would absolutely love if they started doing that, especially if it was to come over to the TCG, because come on, you cannot tell me this doesn't look amazing. I don't know, I absolutely love it, and Dragius getting this Overrush rarity boost, I don't know, it looks absolutely sick, and I think this is also an alternate artwork as well, so I don't know, this just looks sick in my opinion. So I just wanted to kind of cover this. Again, this is a card that has always existed, but the fact that it's getting an Overrush rare, I mean, I will say though, if you're a Dragius fan, you are eating with this announcement. So with that said, before we go into the final 2 new cards, which I'm actually very excited to talk about, I do want to bring up the new archetype that's going to be in this set as well. They didn't really announce much when it comes to these cards. There's only 6 cards in the archetype that we know of so far, and the only things that we know about them is their name and the artworks of the cards as well as their names. So the archetype's name is called Sky Savior, and they have 6 monsters included in the archetype, which I'm just going to name off real quickly. So we have Solia, the Sky Savior Angel, Lua, the Sky Savior Angel, Dunkus, the Savior Knight, Digrace, the Savior Radiance, and then finally we have Dorkmore, the Sky Savior Phantom, which might be the ace of the deck. Again, I cannot confirm that that's the case or not, but that's what's going to be my guess in terms of there being an ace monster in this deck. But with that said, that's going to be it for the Sky Savior archetype. We did not get any announcement of, the effects of these cards, which I do think is a little bit weird. But hey, I guess they decided that they wanted to kind of slowball it a little bit. But overall, they look pretty cool in my opinion. But this is going to lead us into the final 2 cards for this new set. And I gotta say, I'm actually very excited to discuss this. So we got the announcement of Guilford arriving in Rush Duels. Now, for some reason, if you do not remember what Guilford was, this was a card that was released all the way back during the Duel Monsters era and was used by Joey Wheeler in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. And I think the first time he did use it was in the duel against Merrick, if I remember correctly. Again, someone could quote me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he used this against Merrick during the Battle City tournament. And the fact that we're going to be seeing this card come in the Rush Duels is pretty cool, to say the least. I actually really do like the design of Guilford. I don't know, it just looks like a really cool warrior. And we get 2 Guilford cards in this, and the first one that we will be discussing, which is the boy himself, Guilford the Lightning, which is going to be a legend card for Rush Duels, so keep that in mind. It's a level 8 light warrior effect monster with 2800 attack and 1400 defense, and this card can be tribute summoned in attack position by tributing 3 monsters. Its requirement is if this card was tribute summoned this turn by tributing 3 monsters, you can activate this. Destroy all monster your opponent controls. So, in the context of the main game, this card was not good at all. I mean, the fact that you would have to get 3 monsters on your field, and think about this too, this was like old school Yu-Gi-Oh, so just getting 3 monsters to just stick on the field was a pain in the rear end in its own regards, but you would have to tribute all 3 of those monsters, summon this monster just to basically Raigeki your opponent, which I'm just going to be honest, if you wanted to have a card that basically Raigeki'd your opponent's field, just play Raigeki. Like, there was no reason you would ever play this card. And in the context of Rush Duels, I kind of still do agree with that, because this is basically 4 cards that you have to use in order to do this. And if I remember correctly, Raigeki is not actually in Rush Duels, but Dark Hole is. And honestly, when it comes to Dark Hole, it's basically Raigeki. The only difference is it also nukes your board. But guess what? If you have no monsters on your field and you do have a Dark Hole in your hand, just use Dark Hole and just wipe out your opponent's field, and then those 4 monster cards in your hand, that would basically be the equivalent of getting this monster out into the field, probably potentially can deal more damage than this card can have. I mean, this card only has 2800 attack points, which isn't a bad stat line, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, needing to have to use 4 cards just to be able to Raigeki your opponent's board when Dark Hole can basically just do the same thing, I don't know, I just don't think it's really worth it in my opinion. Still very cool to see it in Rush Duels, but there are better ways of being able to just nuke your opponent's board, more specifically Dark Hole. But with that said, that's going to lead us into the final card for this new main core set, and that is Guilford the Rising. Now, before going into the effect, something that I do think is pretty interesting with this, and someone could quote me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure this is actually a unique Guilford card. You know, we've had Guilford the Legend, which is in the main game, but I don't really remember Guilford the Rising at all, so my guess is that this is a completely unique card. It just doesn't seem familiar to me at all. I've never heard of Guilford the Rising before, so more than likely this is a Rush Duel card exclusively, unless I'm just misremembering. Obviously, you know, someone can let me know in the comments below if I am wrong on this and this actually is in the TCG, which if it is, let me know what set it is, because I don't remember what set this could be in. But if it is a new Guilford card, really cool to see. You know, Rush Duels has kind of been doing this thing where they want to try to take older archetypes from the main game and give it new support in Rush Duels exclusively. You know, Cyber Dragons had that with, you know, the new fusion monster Cyber Rush Dragon, I believe what it was called. So to see Guilford also getting that is pretty cool as well. But rambling aside, going into Guilford the Rising, it's a level 8 Fire Warrior effect monster with 2500 attack and 2200 defense, and this card cannot be special summoned, and then its requirement is during the turn this card was normal summoned, you can shuffle 2 warrior monsters in your graveyard back into your deck, and its effect is this card can attack monsters 3 times during each battle phase this turn. So this card is pretty interesting. So the effect to be able to attack 3 times during each battle phase with this card is actually really cool. I mean, it's a 2500 attack point monster, so it is a pretty beefy monster, and to just start wailing at your opponent 3 times with this card is pretty cool. But in my opinion, I do think it's an okay card for two big reasons. The first thing is that this card cannot be special summoned. I absolutely do not like this part of the effect at all, because that means like if this card gets sent to the graveyard, you can't special summon it with something like Monster Reborn or any other card that can potentially get this out of the graveyard. Once it hits the graveyard, it's basically useless unless you can shuffle this card back into your deck. So I don't really care for that effect, and the requirement to where this card can only work when it is normal summon also sucks, because of the fact that that means that this card can only activate this attack monster 3 times during each battle phase once, and that's it. Once this effect is activated, the next turn this card basically becomes a vanilla monster and does absolutely nothing, which kind of sucks in my opinion. So overall, it's an alright card. I do think it does some pretty cool stuff, but I don't know, I just feel like the fact that it just turns into a vanilla monster that you can't special summon, by the way, I don't know, I just don't think it's that great, but I do think it's just an alright card in my opinion. But with that said, before we go into the Rush Duel video game side of things, I do want to quickly bring up the new change to Rush Duels when it comes to the Legend cards in Rush Duels. This was something that was announced a while back, but they did mention it during Jump Festa. If you guys remember, Legend cards are going to be changed where instead of just having one Legend card per deck, you can now have one Legend monster, one Legend spell, and one Legend trap card in your deck starting January 1st, 2023. Haven't given my thoughts on it. Personally, I do like the change. It's going to make the game very interesting, especially since now you have bigger access to what Legend cards you can use, because you can essentially use 3 Legend cards, one of every type in your deck. So I don't know, this seems like a pretty cool change to me, and it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how much this does change the Rush Duel game. But I did want to kind of mention that as well, because it was brought up during Jump Festa. But with that said, this is going to lead into the final thing I do want to discuss for this video, which is in regards to the Rush Duel video game on Let's Go Rush. We did get the announcement that 2 new packs were going to be introduced into the game of Rush Duel Psycho Battle Royale Let's Go Rush. The first one being Fortissimo of the Whirlwind, was the previous main core set before Double Stars of the Assault. And we are also going to be getting the Overrush pack, which is the one that introduced the Overrush rares into the game of Rush Duel. So it's going to be pretty cool to see those 2 sets coming into this game as well. And obviously you're going to have some pretty cool stuff coming into the game, like Cyber Dragons are coming to Rush Duels. That one Maximum monster that got announced is also going to be in it, which I just got to say this, absolutely love the design of the Maximum monster. It looks super sick. So now you can actually use that in the game as well. And with that, that's basically as much as we got for this. We might get some stuff for day 2. I don't really know if that will be the case, but I still think this is a pretty cool update. Nothing too special, but I do think it's interesting to see these 2 new packs coming into the Rush Duel game. But with that being said, guys, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on all the announcements that we did get during this live stream, and let me know what was your favorite announcement from this entire Rush Duel news that we got. Me personally, it was actually Guilford the Lightning. I don't know what it is with this card, but I actually remember this card very fondly from the Duel Monsters anime. Obviously, it's not a very well-known card from Joey, because obviously when you think of Joey, you think of Red Eyes Black Dragon or Time Wizard, but I don't know, this was a pretty sick card that he used in Duel Monsters, and to see it come to Rush Duels was pretty cool. But not only that, we also had Dragias getting an Overrush rare. I mean, any announcement of an Overrush rare is always going to be hype in my opinion, because again, I just cannot get it over the Overrush rare rarity. It is just such a good rarity, and please bring this to the TCG and incorporate it into the main game. That would be absolutely incredible. Like, man, oh man, I absolutely love this rarity. But with that being said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.